We made it, people. We're 2/3 of the way done with July. 2/3 of the way done. Well, we're 9/10 done with July. We're 2/3 of the way done with the summer, or roughly maybe 3/5. I forget it, and it goes on till September. We're still going to have some hot days ahead, but it feels, at least it feels like we have only one more lap to do. One more hot, sweaty, terrible lap. Appreciate all you guys for strength, for perseverance, for sticking with Stone Soup Poetry. In the next few days, there will be, no later than next week, there'll be announcements for features coming up. There'll be announcements for the Boston Poetry Marathon, which is happening, just not quite in the way you suspect. And hopefully more announcements will be coming for that as well. Our feature tonight is Mr. Charles Coe, who might be lost in the audience. I just lost track of where he was a minute ago. There he is. This is a great turnout tonight, and hopefully there'll be more turnout outside, even with people watching the Stone Soup live stream. A lot of people were very enthused about this. We might get some latecomers. I hope so. And well, geez, I should just shut up now because I don't have anything solid to announce yet as far as Stone Soup. We are looking for submissions to finalize the next issue of Stone's Throw, Unalive the Algorithm. Send me your most anti-internet, pro-internet, dying on the internet style poems to me directly. You can email them at chadpoetforhire@yahoo.com, and we'll take it from there. The artist is working on the cover as we speak for the zine. It's going to be a downloadable zine, and I still owe people print copies, and I'm hoping I can get that done this weekend. So thank you all for your patience. And with that said, let's go to our first person in the open mic. Let's go with some feisty cat poems by Patricia Kerrigan herself.
Okay, fresh off the presses today, because I've been with the Brevitas. Okay, you know what haikus? I repeat them twice. Cats for Kamala. Country in a sweat. Tensions rise in red and blue. Cats recruit for change. Country in a sweat. Tensions rise in red and blue. Cats recruit for change. Claws, get ready. JD's leather couch is available. Claws, get ready. JD's leather couch is available. Trump beware. Hannibal Lecter is now a cat. Trump beware. Hannibal Lecter is now a cat. Even the bear is recruiting cats to vote against MAGA jerks. Even the bear is recruiting cats to vote against MAGA jerks. Cat ladies unite. Your litter boxes are full. Dump Trump and Vance. Cat ladies unite. Your litter boxes are full. Dump Trump and Vance. And last, childless cat ladies. Mash MAGA couch potatoes. Glass ceiling shatters. Childless cat ladies. Mash MAGA couch potatoes. Glass ceiling shatters. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Patricia. I still think that with Biden out of the race, we still missed a golden opportunity to write Biden haiku. And every time you repeat the haiku the second time, you do the haiku the second time, you just do it in a louder voice where he could hear. That would have been hilarious. But I consider that the one true loss of the election so far. Let's go now. I didn't expect the Ramdonator to put two politically charged poets in a row, but what the hell?
Thank you.
Hey, not you. Don't even go. I said two politically charged poets, not. Oh, Bill. Let's go now to Richard Spizak.
Thank you so much. I have a little something for you tonight.
You know, it seems to me too often our friends in commercial media go to the weirdest people for opinions. And this is my little mini micro anti-tribute to Joe Manchin. Hey, say, what's he up to today? I wonder what Joe Manchin's up to today. We're not for consensus. That's not how we play. I wonder what Joe Manchin himself has to say. Never much of a Democrat ever, never sided or confided with Democrats. He's too clever by half and never last. Didn't stand up with them, never, not in the past. I knew as a Democrat he'd never pass. Not the tiniest, top of mindiest, least consequential, reverential kind of play. I wonder what old Joe's got for us today. Come what may, how will he weigh in? What's his parlay? What will he say? Him the most lugubrious, unscrupulous close horse, but hey, I wonder what Joe Manchin's got for us today. You gotta wonder, what's his take on this mess? Whose confidence preach? What will he confess? What will he tell us? What offhanded stress? How will he teach? What soil linen unbleached? How can he school him with his back knife so steady the unwary get ready to rule him? Jackknife at the ready, he'd put it to him steady. What the envious, tenuous, storied glory undoing this simple guy's road to ruin? Whose lies is he toting? Whose BS is he floating? What's his gossip today? What promise is broken? What's his signaling token? Damn, what jazz will he play? What's up today? We select each tremulous voice, contentious but choice. Hey, what's the most vitriolic Republican thinking? And hey, I wonder what Joe's floating today. Avoiding unifiers, searching for outliers. It's so gruesome. Every question, tripwire deniers. Damn crazy conspires. Not a progressive voice heard. Not AOC. Potran, Warren, absurd. No one who's calling out for unity. It's like their duty to give us a pile of stinking duty. Call out Schumer as a lefty. How radical bereft is he? A middle rower jockeying with his triangulation. Sure, he's a goer. Now a red, according to Joe. Let's ask Joe Manchin on his job. What's he know? Natch, he gleefully expands on his assessment of these hams. He'll rate them in pairs before they stroll down the stairs. Old Joe calls them as he sees them like some frigid fevered dreaming. Not a good idea among them, not unless there's some fawning cousin. Not an idea in a dozen. Calls them out as socialist. Sure enough, in his pocket he has a list. Paint and plaster how they see him. With Juggling Joe there's never a season. He dumped the whole lot just like he forgot his name among their numbers. Oh, how he talked. He just mumbles, denouncing all around how he chooses, as long as he can paint the D party's losers. What is his thinking? What he assesses this day and its messes? I hope old Joe's not stressing his former party undressing. I wonder what Joe Manchin's up to today. What colorful, pithy thing will he stand up and say? I wonder what Joe Manchin will roll out of his yacht boy and say. Let's not ask Obama. Not one little drama, not one little question. Let's not ask the Clintons for a strategic suggestion. Now, nor speak to St. Bernie, even with our corporate attorney. What's his thinking on this? The most terrible, tremulous, heartbreaking fractions of days. I wonder what Joe Manchin the Great just might say.
I didn't catch that. Could you start over after you reinsert your lungs? No.
I had
That
three
was all in
political
one-
cartoons in one day banned by Facebook, so I'm feeling
that
pretty
was,
good.
that was one continuous breath. I'm impressed. Joe Manchin, the Marvin K. Mooney of our time. Let us. Actually, there are many Marvin K. Moonies if you get down to it. Thank you so much. And up next for something different, let's go now to Mr. Mark States.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Saturday matinee in the only theater in Oakland showing double features. My work buddy did swing shift Fridays, and I pulled weekend graveyard. So on some Saturdays, we meet at the theater around 11 a.m., buy our tickets and bucket of popcorn, then meander to seats in the back row. Always the back row. Sit through previews and commercials, chuckling and back-talking and returning the glares of the few other stragglers to the early show as they find seats preferably not close to us. Once the savory, buttery popcorn made her thirsty, my work buddy surreptitiously extracted a paper bag from her purse containing a small bottle of Jose Cuervo tequila. While rustling a paper bag made others turn around like dogs when a candy wrapper is opened, twisting the cap is unmistakable. So she always popped open the bottle before we stepped inside. A few chugs to sate her thirst, then handed to me for a couple sips. She drank 75% of it, fine with me. Tequila wasn't really my thing. Movies projected while we laughed and hooted and felt the buzz. One Saturday we arranged to meet, but she said she was short and could I buy the tequila this time? Sure. That bottle was empty by the end of the first movie. I don't blame her. That movie was boring. And we were there to see the second movie, Best Defense, starring Dudley Moore and Eddie Murphy. As tank and opening credits roll, she pulls a new bottle of tequila out of her purse. Say what? Oh, I forgot I told you to bring the tequila this time. I remember taking one big chug. I remember a tank rolling around. Fade to black. I remember tripping over cement block in the parking lot. I remember eating French fries in a sandwich shop several blocks down the street. I remember vomiting on floor of sandwich shop. I remember guy on bus penetrating me with Superman heat vision. I remember her getting off bus 10 stops before mine. And the next thing I know, it's 11 p.m., alarm is squawking, and staggering from bed to bathroom to throw up, wearing one shoe. My naked foot steps on apartment keys, which had been dropped on carpet between door and bed. My head spinning like a malfunctioning gyro while planes pound eardrums with concussive payloads. Oh, I saw the XM10 Annihilator all right. But mine comes in a bottle, wrapped in a paper bag, and I do not belong in this war. The end.
Nice work, Mark. Love the intro.
Thank you.
All you need is like a big the end banner for next time, and maybe kazoo playing in the background. But that's
I'll
just
work on that.
And up next, we have previous Stone Soup open mic contributor, previous Oddball magazine contributor, both in words and photography. Let's welcome up Shannon O'Connor.
Hello. I haven't been here in a while, but I decided to come to see my friend Charles Coe. And thank you all for having me. And I'm going to read one poem tonight. This poem is called COVID Dollar. During the depths of COVID in January of 21, I was in the train station. I looked down, a dollar graced the dirty floor. I hesitated and wondered if I should pick it up. What if it was a COVID dollar? COVID could be anywhere, especially in drop dollar bills in the train station. I thought about it for a long 3 seconds before another woman snatched it. I hesitated and the dollar was gone. I told myself it wasn't worth it, that a dollar couldn't buy much, not a cup of coffee or a trip to Hawaii. If the other woman was desperate, risking COVID by picking up a stray dollar, she was braver than me. Is that privilege? Some people would risk death for $3, but not me. I think it was because I had money in a bank and a job with benefits, but not one that paid all the bills. I could have put that dollar toward a cup of coffee or a trip to Hawaii. I hesitated because I imagined risk. After the incident and the loss of the dollar, I got on the train and went to my job at the hospital where people were dying from the pandemic, imagining lost chances, envisioning a cup of coffee or a trip to Hawaii that would never happen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shannon. Welcome back, and don't be a stranger for so long. We got good stuff coming up. Up next, I'd like to recommend Stone Soup alumni, Black Seed Writers alumni, current member of the workshop. Let's welcome up Jan Rowe. Oh, there you are. Here you go.
Oh, hi. This is from the Black Seed Writers. It's called Fears Change. Oh, it's also, I'm sending to a young woman. It's recovering. She was driving a motorcycle and she was hit. So I did this in the 1970s, but would not do it today. In the winter, circa 1976, I drove a 250 Suzuki motorcycle back to the Eastern Shore, Maryland, from Annapolis, across the 4-mile-long Bay Bridge over Chesapeake. My first spouse drove the car. That's another topic. Back to driving the 250 Suzuki in the winter over a 4-mile-long bridge. I had fever blisters or cold sores on my lips. The cold ride froze the fever blisters, just froze them right off my lips. At the time, I had a restriction on my driver's license to wear eyeglasses. I no longer have an eyeglass restriction on my driver's license. So I remember looking down through a drainage grate on the 4-mile-long bridge as I drove this motorcycle in the winter from Annapolis to the Eastern Shore. About a couple of miles of drainage grate. Looking down about 100 feet into the Chesapeake, cold water, I managed to keep the front tire of the motorcycle away from the drainage grate. I hadn't expected any grading, and then having to make sure to keep the motorcycle away from it. Also, I had to be careful not to be too close to the neighboring traffic lane. I think that maybe there was just one bridge then. So I made it and almost immediately forgot what seemed to be a success. I notice often doing this, not celebrating good outcomes or delivered hopes very long at all. Making note of these good outcomes and delivered hopes might help. Also, these days, I would not drive a motorcycle across the bridge. I wouldn't even consider it. Thank you.
And we're introduced to another side of Jan, Road Warrior. Let's give her a hand, and let's welcome up next on the open mic. We're gonna bring back Mary Honecker. We missed the last time, but we're glad she's back for another spot on the mic.
Okay, this is called Thief of My Tomorrows. Who has taken my days and turned them into canyons? The canyon walls would be yellow and orange, but it's night forever, so they are black. Who has taken the minutes of my mind and tossed them thought by thought into the darkest pond? The lily pads shrivel. Every hour of every day I have the urge to scream until I am hoarse, to pour it out, this sooty thing in my lungs, but I remain quiet, my cauldron bubbling, sending out small bouts of steam. Who has wiped my cortex clean, as if my memories, my reveries, and my many essays were nothing but dust? I push my tough fingernails into my palms, leaving a letter of accusation. You. My hours wilt. My thighs tremble and ache with my own weight. Who has taken my strength? Can it all really point to me, master of my own undoing? That's what some of the doctors tell me, that it's my mind. If I could find the one who has stolen my journeys, now and always, who holds me tight to this one spot, which grows dull with too much sight, I would choke that villain with my own hands. I would find a heavy rock and strike it again and again until it moved no more. But the damn thing has no body but mine. What are you, beast, who scrambles my letters, who inhales my words, though so that I am mute as air? I bramble, I thorn. Who stole the ocean, the mountain peaks, my old and dear friends? I talk to the wind. I talk to my body, little animal, it's okay. Who stole my curtains and revealed myself to me an empty vase? Who stole my bouquet? My Queen Anne's lace, my buttercup, my daisies and weeds of soft brush, they had value only to me. Thief of my hair, distorter of my body, who wrings me out daily like a rag, be gone. But dawn rises on a new day like a bucket that could be filled with rain, but isn't filled with anything. That's all.
Like a bucket filled with rain. I enjoyed that very much. And thank you so much. And now that we've quieted down the room again, let's bring it back up. Ladies and gentlemen, before his Idaho chickens kill him, let's get Bill Lewis on the open mic tonight.
I complain you were very mean to me, Chadford. It was clear that I was the one you were calling up, and then you turned around and then dumped me. I am just so verklempt. I am verklempt. I was all up in arms about King Biden and Queen Harris and all that stuff last week, and while I was writing the poem, there was a palace coup, and I'm just sitting there blown out, and nobody did anything. It's like we had this election, we voted for Biden, and suddenly everything is Kamala. We're not going to elect Kamala. She is just appointed. Oh my God. And I'm getting all uptight about this, and I'm going to scream and yell and let the world know what idiots they are and then I got the message from Massachusetts. And so this went to our fine legislatures. News article. Massachusetts to offer new 5-day stay limit for migrants. Plane tickets to leave. Dear Governor Healy, legislators and citizens of Massachusetts, where are they supposed to go after 5 days? You have told us repeatedly how proud you are of the hundreds of affordable units that you have built, which is wonderful, but we need hundreds of thousands. And we've known this for years. Our equitable share of the immigrant population is at least 200,000 people. Our own children need housing also. And the homeless population, which seems to be forgotten and forgotten and forgotten. Massachusetts must act now. What's your alternative? To deport them? Until sufficient housing is built, the immigrants must live somewhere. We, the people, must stand and open our doors. We must provide them with the housing and the jobs and ensure them their legal documentation. And we must do it today. After World War II, my friends lived 2, sometimes 3 families in a flat. It is now incumbent upon us to do the same. And especially we need the leadership of the progressive and the leftist and the Latino community who fought so hard to open the border in the first place. The people united will never be defeated. Your brother in solidarity, Bill.
Okay, I guess you're politically charged too. Fine, happy. Okay. Thank you, Bill. And up next, thank you, Bill. And up next, let's welcome up past online feature and online open micer with us. Let's welcome back Mary Jennings.
Thank you, Chad. I know it's been a while here. I've been, my newest project is my memoirs, which I'm writing in cinquain form. And the title of the memoirs is Cinquain or Swim. And this section of cinquains focuses on my longtime day job, and it is called Kept My Day Job. A home I made out here while slugging away in a bureaucratic shark tank. Drudge work. Artists not welcome here. I sublimate myself for the company's greater good. Grindstone. Although I was layman in biology, I supported true conservation. No bluff. Climbers up the ladder of the corporate game were the ones who got the star treatment. Kiss butt. Success, focal object after the downsizing. Wildlife mission was sold out. Sucked in. Highlight of my career. I made an album with my colleagues, rock stars for a time. One hit. Camden, Whitman's last home, where we laid down our tracks. Come hear the wildlife singing. Anthems. Whitman and I share bond. Interior clerics, both blackballed for indecency. Same path. Wanted my workplace to utilize me rightly, not for grunt work and amusement. Good for? No place I could rise up in my workplace. Settled for being reliable aid. Rutted. Never curried favor for perks or promotion. Would have shoved a few under the bus. Not me. Even Rachel Carson knew when she had enough. Did her best work as free agent. Icon. Rachel and I share bond. Hysterical women for exposing systems toxins. Call out. I'm done. I've had enough of disproportionate regard for one over others. Got none. You want the details of what went down and out? Look up Cinquains for a Mad World. Promo. Thank you.
Homo indeed. Thank you, Mary.
You're
And up
welcome.
next on the subject of people we haven't seen for a while, let's bring up next the open mic. He has a brand new publication. I believe submissions are still open. Let's welcome up Angelo D'Amato.
Yeah, turns out making a living is pretty time consuming. Yeah, glad to be here tonight. So I just have a short 100-word-ish exercise from a while back. Couple of things to note. Father Daniel is a character from another story. He's a Catholic priest who no longer believes in what he's preaching. And for those who don't know, the Papal Enclave is the ritual where all the cardinals lock themselves away from the world and send up black smoke if they haven't chosen a new pope yet, and send up white smoke when they finally choose one. So this is called Father Daniel's Morning Walk on the second day of the 2013 Papal Enclave. He sees the white fumes rising from the traffic on Newberry Street and thinks, oh, excellent, we have a half dozen new popes. His fingers twitch against the change lodged in the pocket of his overcoat. The merchants of the temple, he sneers. And then, I really shouldn't say that. Ahead, a man wearing a loose gray sweater is crouched against a brick wall and holding a clear Dunkin' Donuts cup. $2 bills, a dime, a penny. Change, any change, the man half gasps. His white breath staggers out and rises. Father Daniel's fingers twitch again. And there is the merciful heft of 2 newly minted quarters. The rectory has spare beds. Father Daniel tosses the quarters at the man and scurries away. That's that.
Thanks, Angelo. Is the call for submissions for that for that project still open, sir?
Oh yes, yeah. I'll throw the link in the chat. I'm accepting submissions up until September 10th.
That's
Yeah.
good, because I barely had time. I know you, I commented on your Facebook post when you proposed it, but I haven't had a chance to look at the page yet, so I'm glad it's still going on. And
Okay.
check out the link, and I'll probably put it to everyone's attention again on this Thursday. Trying to bring back calls for submissions, and for anyone who might have the time tonight, Molecule, its last day of accepting submissions is today. That's a magazine that accepts poems of no more than 50 words. You can submit up to 5 pieces. There's also interviews, artwork, calls, and that's all being done until tonight at midnight. And I'll try and find the page for that. I think the actual submissions page on the site says it was done on July 15th, but they extended it to tonight. And up next, I'd like to bring up Mr. Robert Fleming of Old Scratch Press fame.
Good evening. I'm Robert Fleming. I'm a retired television writer, and tonight I will be offering to the Stone Soup players an opportunity to do a reading of one of my comedy skits. May I use the share screen? Can't hear you, Chad. I still can't share the screen. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know why. I thought I had selected it. My bad. Something. Okay, now is it happening? Should be happening.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that.
So my skit is inspired by the 1978 movie Halloween, and it was broadcast around Halloween. This was the scene in the closet which inspired my skit. It's the scene where the babysitter meets the killer in the closet. So for the casting for this piece, the characters are Lori, a teenage girl. She is the babysitter. A mother, Lori's mother, and Michael, a babysitter killer. So I'd like some volunteers to read Lori, the mother, and Michael.
I'll go for Michael.
Thank you, John. What about Lori or the mother?
Well, if nobody else is going to, I mean, I don't want to be pushy, but
I've always wanted to be a teenage girl, and I think I'd need a good mother. Jackie, if you'd be my mommy, I'll be Lori, the babysitter.
Jackie, thank
Thank
you.
you, Jackie.
Okay. So the setting, it's called Michael Returns for Halloween. And the setting is the house living room. And it starts with the mother, which is on screen.
Don't go in that coat closet.
Looks at the closet.
Coat?
It's Halloween.
Opens the closet.
Mother, something's moving.
Michael is visiting for Halloween.
Missed you. Lonely? Dead?
We're at Lori Michael.
Lori Michael. Michael?
Lori, it's me, Michael.
What's the thing?
Lori, come into the closet.
Forbidden Planet?
No knife.
Lori goes into the closet with Michael.
My costume.
Puts on his mask.
Scary. Boo!
Scream for me.
No, kiss me.
Okay.
Michael and Lori kiss. Lori screams.
The thing? Popcorn?
Mother, make popcorn.
From off stage.
You're a big girl. Make your own popcorn.
Lori leaves the closet, exits stage. Mother walks on stage to Michael in the closet.
How are you, Michael?
I hate hell. Satan makes me eat liver.
Everyone loves you.
Leans over Michael, gives him a kiss on the forehead.
I love you too, Michael.
Michael watches TV. Lori enters with popcorn, puts it on the table next to her mother.
Michael chased me with a knife.
Michael likes you.
Michael tried to kill me.
Michael chased you. Boys don't know how to show they like you. Lori, less judgy.
Yes, Mother.
Who's taking you to the prom?
Lori ignores.
Michael will take you.
Michael's dead.
Mother ignores.
Michael can't leave the closet.
With faith, anything can happen. Michael, are you staying for dinner?
Yes, Miss Strode.
Lori, get a bowl of water and soap. Brings it to Michael. Michael,
Lori
wash
exits.
your hands. Okay. Michael, wash your hands before dinner.
Lights out. Lights on. Mother walks around the stage and dusts. Michael and Lori are off stage changing costumes. Lights off. Michael and Lori enter to center stage. Lights on. Michael is center stage in a closet costume. Lori is next to Michael wearing tight blue bell bottom and a red halter top. Shows a lot of cleavage. Slutty.
I love that. Girlfriend. What am I? What am I?
Babysitter. You kids have fun tricking or treating. Michael, your mother, only sugar-free candy for you.
Michael ignores.
Michael, promise me.
Yes, Ms. Strode, I promise sugar-free candy.
Michael, I want Lori back by 9 p.m.
Michael and Lori ignore.
Promise me.
Yes,
Yes,
Ms.
Mrs.
Strode, 9
9
p.m.
p.m.
Michael, you forgot.
Michael, mother exits and returns with a knife, gives it to Michael.
Thank you, Ms. Strode.
I want to take a picture.
Mother picks up a camera, walks to audience, puts back to audience, aims camera. Michael, Lori pose. Lori takes the knife from Michael. Lori holds a knife over Michael's head. Lights dim, and as lights go out, Michael screams. And that's the end. Thank you for letting me share one of my skits, Michael Returns to Halloween.
You too can be a Stone Soup player and have an IMDb credit. Really. Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Fleming. And up next, we do have a few more names to go through on the open mic. Thanks to everyone who's read so far, who's listened so far. We have a few more left. Let's go next to Jackie Oldham. I seen on Stone Soup Player TV.
Yes. All righty. This is an old poem from 2022, and it is my first Insta poem, which are poems I write directly to Facebook. I am not Pavlov's dog. A tinkly tune will not get me to open my social media feed any faster than email alerts or my own independent interests already do. Don't tell me. I know that I'm already conditioned to check my feed first thing in the morning over a cup of coffee. And after every post or comment, I'm looking for reactions. I guess I am Pavlov's dog. But if he doesn't stop playing that tinkly earworm, I will bite Pavlov. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Not as good as Pavlov's cat. Did you ever hear the Pavlov's cat bit from Eddie Izzard? Day 1, rang bell, cat fucked off. Day 2, rang bell, cat answered door. Let's see. Day 3, cat said he had eaten earlier. Cheeky bugger. Okay, who do we have next on the open mic? Now, let's go to Mr. Bob Reeves. Oh, excuse me.
Hello. Two things for you. The first is the little gray dish. Hostilities and military units rose along the border, but nothing broke the peace till an obscure undersecretary at the Ministry of Propaganda had the following words printed in a state newspaper. Our country is a granny, a sweet forest-dwelling granny, so unfortunate that she only has porridge to eat and one little gray dish to eat it from. When the enemy comes, they will smash the little gray dish. Overnight, our forces quadrupled in size. They marched to the border under banners reading, "Save the little gray dish." Any enemy troops that might have been charged with halting them were overwhelmed as they swarmed across. Relations between the armies and the civilian population varied, as in any war, except for one phenomenon that kept repeating. If the soldiers discovered a gray dish in an enemy's home, they smashed it, slew its owners, and burned the house to the ground. And the other one is Chronicle. After the moon changed, the color of the grass was bluer, or bluer than people remembered it being. Dogs never looked up anymore, or looked around much at all. They trembled rather than barked when disturbed. The sidewalks, the ones that weren't cracked from underneath, turned down different streets or ran under people's houses, and the houses seemed to hop a little when you looked at them too long. Everywhere in the air was the sound of tremendous wings, though nothing flying was visible. People held their ears. Food and drink were colder, rougher on the tongue. It wasn't safe to travel in groups of less than 4 or farther away than a mile. Most stores closed at noon. The skin conditions might have been the worst part, the itching that became intolerable when scratched, the galloping sores, the consistency of mud or hot soup, the panic shedding of skin from entire appendages, the growth of fur, fins, or in rare cases, hooves. Neighborhoods would forget how to read for a week, or all the vehicles would suddenly be upside down, or coins would turn to rotting lettuce, paper money to strips of tar, and next week a new neighborhood would undergo the same. The men who usually got up on something in the park to proclaim the world was coming to an end started proclaiming that it wasn't, or that was all you could make out through their shrieks and cascades of laughter. People who loved each other didn't stop looking into each other's eyes, but everyone else hated to see it. Rocks underfoot felt like peeled grapes and also hated the lovers. Then, before anyone knew what to do, the moon changed back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. And now we have Rich Boucher. Pastone Suit feature. Books on my to be read list to before summer ends. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Good to hear everybody. And so, Bob, I'm going to actually share a poem that's sort of directly in response to an element of the second poem that you read. And this, I believe, was either just published or is going to be published in the Fixed and Free Poetry Quarterly. This is called Blue Neighborhood, Blue Morning, Blue Afternoon. I went outside and looked around. There was a loud noise, a sound like a big, skinny champagne flute smashing on sidewalk that rocked me from my breakfast table. I left my half cup of cruelty-free Guatemalan coffee and my mostly eaten Brooklyn bagel and my final strip of Texas bacon and trudged to the door to see what was the matter, or at least to see what was about to be the matter. It was 7:01 when I opened the door and stepped out onto the porch to look around. I couldn't see what made the noise, but whatever it was left the whole neighborhood blue in color. Life outside was suddenly in every shade of blue a person could dream of. The pavement on the little road I lived on was now baby blue in color, and the oak trees and the spruces, too, that lined the road in front of each house were now made of clear blue sapphire, and they twinkled in the unusual light. Each two-story house in my cul-de-sac was now colored in varying shades of blueberry, morning glory, hibiscus, and cobalt chloride. Lawns of tanzanite blue sprawled all around me while I yawned, confused and unclear. Each mailbox, from my house down to the Johnsons over at 211, was now a terrifying and shiny aquamarine in hue. I looked up to the sun, and how bizarre was it that it didn't hurt to look right at it. It wasn't glowing or shining, but instead it was just hanging there, quietly suspended up in a sky made of blank white space like a sphere of slick blue raspberry candy. like it was at the end of an unseen lollipop held by no one. Hours passed with me standing there on the porch in my black plaid pajamas like an idiot, held by no one, and a strong maple breeze kept the white rocking chair beside me in occasional motion the whole time. A paperboy coasted past my porch on a fluorescent orange bicycle, like he was always meant to do. And when he met my eyes with his, he clasped his hand over his mouth in obvious shock. This is what it feels like when you've grown old enough to find it hard to remember what your mother's voice sounded like. And I don't want to talk about this ever again. Thank you. By the
Nice
way, if I may
follow.
quickly interject,
Oh, sure.
I haven't seen Sari and Bob in, it feels like about 79 years. So just seeing their faces again fills my heart. And I have, in my own kind of manner, looked up to the both of them as excellent writers and inspirations. And I just wanted people here to know that.
Thanks for that, and thank you, Rich, for that great follow-up to his poem. I didn't ask Sari if she wanted to read. Is she interested, or? Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Oh, go on.
Z. Okay. Putting your socks on. You apologize every time for the necessity as I kneel between your knees. I don't apologize for staring into your crotch as you roll the first sock, though I feel the guilt of wanting to suck your cock and give you the trouble of getting your pants on again, wanting it now when sex is anything you can call academic. I take the sock from your hand and push it onto your foot, flinch when it catches your heel, afraid I'm hurting you. You take the cuff from me and pull it up, impatient to resign the role of invalid you've played a few months, I for years. No, I don't want to need you injured to balance my dependence. I want to be near you, to dip between your thighs, to touch your feet.
Thank you so much. As we get closer and closer to the end, it's time to bring up John Wizik with another chapter, hopefully from his story from last week.
Yes, that's right. So you'll remember last time this mobster, Joey Elbows, hired the private eye Nick to be his bodyguard while he goes on a book tour. And they just found Nick just kind of captured a guy named Ronnie who was trying to kill Joey Elbows. So we'll pick it up from there. This is called The Rat Who Cried Wolf. "Let him go, Nick," Joey Elbows said. He'd left the bookstore when someone told him about the fight on the street. "I can explain everything. My real name is Joe Esposito." Joey spooned hoisin sauce and moo shu pork onto a Chinese pancake and passed the plate. "I'm the author of the Dragons of Sharma series." "Never heard of it." I took the moo shu pork and passed the mapo tofu to Ron. "That's exactly the point." Joey rolled up the pancake and took a bite. 30 years as a writer and I have nothing to show for it, so I invented a mobster autobiography and hired Ron to drum up publicity with a fake assassination. "And your publisher's okay with that?" I asked. "They only care about sales." The filling fell out of Joey's pancake and he picked it up with a chopstick. I told him I conflated people and events for dramatic purposes, but not about my unorthodox marketing campaign. "Guess I'll head home then." I poured myself another cup of tea. "You can mail my check." Why don't you stay? Joey asked. Ron's part is finished. All you have to do is stand around at my readings to earn $200 a day, and you look like you could use the money. I'm going to pack up the car and head down to breakfast, Joey said. See you in half an hour. I closed the hotel room's door and peeled an orange. Even though Joey was picking up the tab, I couldn't justify paying $20 for a hotel breakfast. An orange, muffin, and cup of coffee were good enough for me. I took my meal to the window and watched Joey wheel his suitcase to his SUV. I tossed the orange peel at the trash can, but the liner was so tight it bounced off. I bent to retrieve it as an explosion blew out the window. The fire alarm wailed, my ears rang, and I brushed shattered glass from my shoulders. Outside, Joey's SUV was a ghastly sculpture of burning plastic and twisted metal. You have to help me, Ron Insulata said over the phone that let him communicate from behind reinforced glass. The cops don't believe my shooting at the bookstore was for publicity. They think I killed him. Do you have any written agreements with Joey? I looked at Insulata, who wore an orange prison jumpsuit and had a bruise under his eye. No. Any checks? He paid in cash, Insulata said. You think he'd leave written records? No, but I had to ask, I said. So you'll help me clear my name? I'll sniff around and see what I can come up with. I nodded to the guard as I left the visiting room. And we'll pick that up from there next time. This is The Rat Who Cried Wolf. Thanks.
Another reason to come to Stone Soup, serialized stories. Thank you, John. And finishing off the open mic and segueing to our feature, his name is Charles Coe. He's heard you all. I hope you all stick around to hear him. But first, or rather next, we go to Oddball Columnist. Check out his poem column, It's All One Thing, at oddballmagazine.com every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. And now, Mr. Van Loy.
Thanks, Chad. So I have a poem here called Drop Out. Just like I dropped out of college to be drafted early in Vietnam War, I got the coronavirus before anyone even knew it was in Boston, and then have been recovering ever since after I got 2 stents put in that gave me back my very breath, bringing me close contact with death. A very mortal body confrontation with the hard facts on the ground, boiled neck on leaning tower of vertebrae threatening to fall. I walked and walked, days of pain kept on going, shifting back and forth to reestablish connections between nerves and flesh and bone. If only I'd known how to do it back in youth at Vietnam War, trauma time. And let me sing you a quick song here. Blue moon, you saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Blue moon, you knew just what I was there for. You heard me saying a prayer for somebody I really could care for. And then there suddenly appeared before me the only one my arms will ever hold. I heard somebody whisper, please adore me. And when I looked, the moon had turned to gold. Blue moon, now I'm no longer alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Loy. You can get that every week coming to Stone Soup, and more features are going to be announced. I sent my query to one one feature hoping he would give a response tonight. That doesn't seem to be the case, but hopefully tomorrow we'll have answers and more features announced as we move our way to the end of summer and to the election year, and hopefully the beginning of a new year in 2025. Let's friggin' hope so. We have our feature tonight. I thank him for his patience. I thank all of you for your attentiveness and for your work in tonight's open mic. This is the part where I read the boilerplate. This is, I think, my third or fourth time doing it for Mr. Charles Coe. It's amazed me how much of a fixture he's been at several locations for Stone Soup. He was even at the one at the church by Park Street, which everyone had a hard time getting to. It's only fitting that he makes another podium spot his home, even if it's a virtual podium. The boilerplate as follows, and he's done a lot since the last time he was with us, which was back in 2019, pre-COVID, old world days. Charles Coe is the author of 5 books of poetry. We could say like 5, like Booker T, and go 5, 5, 5, 5. 5 books of poetry: Picnic on the Moon, All Sins Forgiven, Poems for My Parents, Memento Mom, Purgatory Road, and most recently, Charles Coe, New and Selected Works. All published by Leapfrog Press. His novella Spin Cycles, about a homeless man living on the street in Boston, was published by Gemma Media. Peach Pie, a short film by filmmaker Roberto Mighty, based on his poem Fortress, has been shown in film festivals nationwide. Charles is the recipient of fellowships from the Mass Cultural Council and the St. Botolph's Club of Boston. He's been selected by the Associates of the Boston Public Library as a Boston Literary Light, unquote. Try getting that on your driver's license. I'm envious. He has served as artist in residence for the city of Boston, where he created an oral history project that featured people who live and work on Mission Hill. He teaches poetry and prose in a variety of settings, including grade schools, high schools, colleges, writing conferences, and private workshops. He has served as poet in residence at Wheaton College and the Chautauqua Institution in Western New York, and is an adjunct professor of English at Sal Virginia University in Newport, Rhode Island, teaching poetry and nonfiction. And finally, he served, as if that wasn't enough, as if that couldn't sum up a life well lived, as is. He serves on the board of directors for the Brattleboro Literary Festival and the New England Poetry Club, and on the planning committee for the Convergence Ensemble, and is a member of the steering committee for the Boston chapter of the National Writers Union, a labor union for freelance writers. Not content to sit on those laurels, he has decided to venture out and conquer Stone Soup a 5th time, or is it 4th or a 5th time? I gotta count it up. We're so glad he's here. I hope you guys grab the his newest poetry collection once I link it tomorrow morning. So now, nothing else for me to say. As a matter of fact, I need to shut up as you put your hands together, virtually or otherwise, 30, 40 times for Mr. Charles Coe.
Greetings, feathered humans, fellow carbon-based life forms. Chad, thank you for inviting me to hang out with you all, and thank you all for sharing your poetry. I was listening to all these different voices, and it flashed me back to some years ago when I was hanging out in this coffee shop in Toronto, talking with this woman about, she was an African Canadian woman, and we were talking about the difference between life in Canada and life in the States for Black people. And she said, in America, you all talk about melting pot, but in Canada, we talk about a mosaic. And I think a mosaic is a much more compelling and interesting and productive way to look about how people with differences come together. And so I appreciated hearing the mosaic of poetry this evening, all these different voices and everybody doing their thing. So keep on doing what y'all doing. So what I'm doing right now, I just had a book come out a couple of weeks ago. Let me show it to you. This is Charles Coe New and Selected Works. This came out a couple of weeks ago. And I'm having my official book launch on Saturday at Friends Meeting House in Cambridge at 5 Longfellow Park, about 5 minutes out of Harvard Square. So if anybody's free, I would love to have you all come over. What I'm fixing to do right now is read a bit from it. This book is 20 new poems and 20 poems each from my first 4 books. And I'm going to start with some of the new stuff. And this is Prelude. Before we begin, may I ask you a question? Would it bother you if at some point I forgot to remember the illusion that we are made of solid matter? That we instead consist of atoms and electrical charges, or 99% empty space? Would it bother you to look through my suddenly spectral form and see the backrest of my chair? It wouldn't be intentional, a parlor trick. It's just that when I think about broken children lying in the rubble of bombed out buildings, I sometimes find it difficult to remain tied to this world. So if I seem to fade, please don't judge, don't be alarmed. Just hold out your hand. We can touch palm to palm to keep ourselves connected to this terrible and beautiful place. Remind us we are made of the same stuff as the stars. This tomato. Tonight's dinner is a single tomato, a massive heirloom, ruby red, wrinkled, irregularly shaped, local, perfectly ripe, sliced thick, sprinkled with salt. I never bother with tomatoes in the off season. Those billiard balls shipped cross country, picked green, gas to turn them red. When the good tomatoes are done, my tongue's attention turns elsewhere. When I was young and waved goodbye to friends who'd packed their lives into cars and headed down the road, I always assumed I'd see them again someday. Some I never did, never will. I hope I'm here to greet next year's crop, but now I take nothing for granted. Tonight's tomato, this tomato, is an exercise of the ephemeral, a juicy vine-ripened reminder of time's blinking eye. Let's see, how about the gospel group? Anybody familiar with the Blind Boys of Alabama, the gospel group? Well, they were in town. They were I heard a couple of months ago, I heard them at the Armory in Somerville, and they were incredible. And so I went to the concert and I got home and I wrote this. This is called Sanctified. When the Blind Boys of Alabama kick into high gear, a hole is ripped in the fabric of the universe, through which you will tumble to find yourself in a storefront Baptist church in Selma, Alabama, with no air conditioning, on the hottest day of the summer, at Sunday service, where shouts pouring from the open windows are heard a block away, and Sister Hattie, whose magnificent hat is the love child of Mount Kilimanjaro and the Sydney Opera House, is fanning herself with one hand and with the other dabbing at the glow on her cheek with a lace handkerchief. I'm a huge fan of Duke Ellington. Uh, and he had a very, very, very interesting life. Later in life, he spent a lot of time in Scandinavia, and he was writing very serious music. He was composing church music, if you will. And this this poem, I've researched some of his some of the things he liked to eat, and they're incorporated into this piece. This is an invitation to Duke. Dear Mr. Ellington, I would like to invite you to dinner at a time convenient for you to take temporary leave of your current digs, so you can tell me what it was like to sit late at night in a hotel room in Paris or London, Rome, smoking cigars, drinking bourbon, writing charts, and in the morning hearing those charts played at rehearsal by some of the finest musicians on earth. If you care to join me, I will offer your favorites. A steak smothered in onions with a double portion of fried potatoes, sliced tomatoes, and a giant lobster. And over a apple pie a la mode, we can chuckle about the time some snob asked what you thought of Ray Charles playing country music, expecting you to criticize. But instead, you said, there are only two kinds of music, good music and the other kind. You know, it's so interesting how there is so much resistance to history being discussed in this country. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We could spend 2 hours talking about all that. But someone on social media said a while ago that the people who don't want their children being taught about rocks being thrown at Ruby Bridges are the grandchildren of the people who threw rocks at Ruby Bridges. Word. So this is for Ruby Bridges. In the Norman Rockwell painting, Ruby Bridges, the problem we all live with, you are being escorted into the segregated school by federal marshals. We see 4 of them in the frame, 2 walking ahead, 2 behind, but we don't see their faces. You are the focus of the piece. A thrown tomato is smashed on the wall behind you. You walk straight ahead, past the red guts dripping down and piled on the sidewalk, past the faint ghost of nigger painted on the wall someone tried with limited success to scrub away. Ruby, what can we possibly say about you? What words could describe this 6-year-old child armed with a notebook and ruler, walking resolutely past that pack of jabbering hyenas, past the woman who every day threatened to poison you, past the woman who every day waved before your face a black doll in a coffin. The lead marshal said, you never cried once during that nightmare year. What can we possibly say about you? Brave as any astronaut climbing into a tin can to be launched into the airless void. And this is from personal experience. I won't editorialize about it, others read it. This is privilege. When I was a child, one day, a white man in a Cadillac ran a red light and T-boned our family station wagon. Nobody was hurt, but both cars were totaled. He was dead drunk. When the police came, he could hardly stand. They loaded him into the back of a squad car and hustled him away without taking a statement from my father. His insurance paid to replace our car, but he was never charged with drunk driving. I told my father I didn't think it was fair. He could have killed us all. Father looked at me a long moment, then turned back to the mirror without answering. Razor slowly plowing the field of shaving cream. What could he say? What could he say? What could he say? This is to the mother of a black son. He doesn't like you hugging him in public. Sometimes the music he listens to makes you sad. Where is the tenderness? You wonder, but you say nothing. This man-child, taller each time he rises from his bed, who grows stronger by the day, whose veins flow with blood that busies itself building muscle and bone, is, without realizing it, always laying brick by brick the path that will lead him away to some unknown future. Some mornings when he's off to school and you tell him to be careful, he shrugs. If you try to speak of this world's cold truths about how quickly clouds can darken the sky, he might say, he already knows. He doesn't know. And as you watch him walk out the door every morning, you pray the phone never rings with the news you dread. And this is a haiku for George Floyd. That final moment when you called out for mama, did birds go silent? I'm gonna share a couple of sonnets now, a little different. I'll share one by the master, William Shakespeare. This is sonnet 29. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself, almost despising, happily I think on thee. And then my state, like to the lark at break of day, arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered, such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. And I was inspired by Shakespeare's sonnets. Some years ago, I had an experience that I said, oh, I need to write about this. And so I started writing in free verse, which is my usual mode. I'll write in forms. I'll do villanelles. I'll do haiku, I'll do other stuff when that's the tool the job requires. But I was writing this thing in free verse and it wasn't working. And I said, it needs to be a sonnet because it was the narrator was someone who was out of his time. It was sort of a romantic poem. It was kind of old fashioned. So it became a sonnet. And the sonnet is titled Sonnet for the Young Woman Who Offered Me Her Seat on the Train. Your smile illuminates the gloomy morn as sunshine warms a chilly mountain lake. Before me sits a beauty not yet born when decades trailed already in my wake. You stir as if to rise and yield your place, but I return your smile and shake my head while hoping in the moment that my face will show no hint of all the thoughts unsaid. I could have sung your mother lullabies. Yet still a young man lingers in my heart, who once delighted in a young girl's sighs. The time has passed for him to play that part. He read his lines upon a perfumed stage, but as they will, the years have turned the page. You know, people ask me sometimes, what's your philosophy? Yeah, right, yeah, sure. And so I do have a poem. I have a couple of poems actually that speak to that. One is, if what you say is so. If what you say is so, that this world's heart is cracked and crumbling, I should get ready for this coming round of gray days. I will stand before cracked mirrors, practicing dyspeptic scowls to flash at babies when their mothers' backs are turned. When children play outside my window, I will shout down curses like those dry old men who hate life because it reminds them of death. Will you then be satisfied when my eyes are covered with that thin, tough film that lets light neither in nor out? We can sit together then in a cozy little room and wiggle our toes before the fire and sip our tea and laugh at the fools who still believe that a life can be saved by one hand reaching for another. And I'll read another that sort of is a companion piece of that. You know, it's funny, sometimes you're minding your own business and you're washing the dishes or flossing the schnauzer or whatever, and something pops into your head and you go, where in the name of Elvis Presley's dental floss did that come from? But you got to go with it. And so this title popped into my head, and then I realized that I needed to write a poem. And the title is Butt Dialing Jesus. There was a time when voices emanating from my pants would have caused concern. But now I just shrugged, pulled out my phone to hear a recording. You have reached the Son of God. I'm currently speaking with another supplicant, but please hold, your salvation is important to me. This was followed by music. I expected celestial choirs or maybe an elevator-friendly version of My Sweet Lord, but was instead treated to acoustic Delta blues guitar, interrupted after a little while by the voice of himself, greeting me by name and asking what I wanted. I was startled. Didn't expect to actually get through. What's the one true religion? I asked, flustered just to have something to say. All of them, he replied. None of them. I was taken aback. That's it? That's it, he said. Follow the golden rule. Leave the campground cleaner than you found it. Look, anything else? I have a lot of people on hold. I had nothing, mumbled my thanks. He said, go in peace, and broke the connection. I put down the phone and stared out the window. The guy across the street was clearing snow off his sidewalk. Never really liked that dude. But I grabbed my shovel to go lend a hand. You know, it's funny, when I started working on that poem, I was thinking, oh, that's a funny title, blah, blah, blah. This is going to be fun. This will be a goofy piece. And so I started writing it, and I would like to think there were some humorous moments in it, but then something happened, and it sort of took a turn on me. And I'm sure you've experienced that in your own writing. You started something, you figured, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing. And then as you started writing it, you realize, wow, I had a plan, but that the work said, no, not that, this. And you got to go with that. When that happens, you got to go with it. So that's what happened to me. So I will end with this one, and if folks want to yak about anything, have any questions, I'll be happy to chat with y'all. And this is the last of the new poems in this book. And I apologize for the title, which is Nocturnal Admissions. So, late at night, and I reluctantly shed the cocoon of blankets, rise once more to perform that task so familiar to men of a certain age. And afterwards look for a moment in the bathroom mirror at the battalion of wrinkles whose comrades wait patiently to join their ranks. I look at my hair, what's left of it, mostly white as a sheet of typing paper, then shut off the light, go back to bed to burrow once more beneath the covers. But as sometimes happens, sleep has climbed out the window, dropped quietly to the grass, and padded off barefoot into the night. At times like this, one's shortcomings and failures and disappointments sometimes return to take their bows. Projected on the ceiling, images on parade, I nod to each member of the troop, accept each judgment in turn. Some debts I can never repay, others will never be repaid to me. But even though the list of things I thought I knew grows ever smaller, and the tang of ancient grief still lingers on my tongue, I realize I've made peace with my past, and to my surprise, sleep returns. I awake to sun shining through the window, hear a mockingbird declare itself master of the universe. Now that my nocturnal ghosts have faded once more into memory and mist, I will rise to face this new day that stretches out before me like a ribbon of new highway. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any comments, questions about anything?
Good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful work, sir. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Robert.
So after you wrote and published your fourth book, what made you want to write a fifth one?
My publisher got to me and said, "We want another book." And I'm like, okay, okay. And he said, "What I want to do," and my publisher is incredible. He's a fabulous, very enthusiastic, very supportive person. He says, "What we want to do is we want to do a new and selected. We want to do some new poems, and we do want to do some poems for your first 4 books." So that's how that happened. It's a good problem, because I had 800 things going on, and when my publisher got in touch, it was like, "Man, dude, I just had a book come out last year," and yeah. So we want this other book. So that's where we are now. But it was a really good experience to go through my first 4 books and sort of curate some pieces from it that I wanted to have in this new collection. It was a very interesting experience.
The greatest hits, of course.
Yeah.
Right. It came out the same year as the best of Katy Perry.
Oh my God. See, now that puts a completely different spin on it.
I
Wow.
believe Rich has a question.
Yes, please.
Well, yeah, it's more of really a comment. Firstly, thank you for sharing your work tonight. Your feature was excellent. And I especially enjoyed throughout your poetry, you continually draw from the synchronicity that is constantly at work in life. And that was apparent to me throughout your work. And I loved being able to see that because you made it visible. So this isn't really a question about who do you like as a writer, because everyone's going to ask you that question, I think. But the way that you deliver, regardless of whether or not it's your own work or sonnets, which not everyone has a comfort with. A lot of people put on this faux performative theatrical voice that they don't really need to when they're doing a sonnet because they think that they need to. And I loved that was nowhere even remotely anywhere near you when you did the sonnets. The way that you could stretch your legs and get so comfy inside of a sonnet was very inspiring. My question would be, especially given the truly skilled way that you deliver, could you name 3 poets whose vocal style and vocal approach you admire, who you might have, whether or not intentionally, cribbed notes from, borrowed from, taken an inspiration from? And I'll take my answer off the air.
That's an incredibly interesting question. The short answer is that I look to my own aesthetic and my own sense for inspiration. But there are many other writers who read their work who I really admire. I love the way Robert Pinsky reads his work. I love the way the late Etheridge Knight read his work, one of our great African American poets. I love the way Rita Dove reads her work. But when I'm teaching, and I teach in a couple of MFA programs and in a lot of other settings as well, and I talk a lot about poet voice, how sometimes I'm reading this poem and I'm reading this poem in the voice that I'm reading this poem. And I was teaching this bunch of 6th graders one time and encouraged them to when they're reading their stuff, to read it in a natural voice, this amped up just a touch, and not poet voice. And I took one of their poems and read it like a really bad ham actor, and they laughed. And one of the kids, this is 6th grade now, he said, "Wow, that was a feelings ball, like a cat's hair ball." What can you say to that? My mind is blown.
There's no response to that other than just to appreciate it.
No, I said, "Scotty, you just blew my mind. I am going to quote you for the rest of my life as a teacher." And he was like, as well he should have been, because it was brilliant. I've been talking on these subjects for years, and I'd never heard anyone put it that well. It was stupefying. So that's my feeling is is the natural voice. The natural voice in how you present the work, and the natural voice in how you write the work. In one of the MFA programs I teach in, well, one thing that young writers do often is they try to write like writers with very elevated vocabulary and tortured sentence constructions. And I had one of my students read 2 books. I switched up his reading list for the semester, and I put Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, and Pearl Buck's The Good Earth on the reading list. And I said, all right, there are 2 things about these books to consider. One is both these books were written at a middle school grade reading comprehension level. And 2, both these books won the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Yeah. It's really, yeah. Charles, thank you again. And a quick response to your response was that since I think it's only fair that I tell you 2 authors that I've taken inspiration from for delivery, because I think the poem tells you how to read it, but that you don't go into that poet voice, or I try not to. And I certainly hope it's never obvious that I'm doing that. James Tate and Charles Simic. There's something about the way that they do their work that has not just moved me, but has lit the path for me, just vocally, and a little bit of the writing too.
2 masters, 2 absolute masters.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Kooser also is someone you might want to check out as well.
I will check out Ted Kooser.
Can I throw something in here talking about voice? Jack Grapes is like one of the old men of Southern California writing. He's got these method writing classes. One of the things that he does is he says, hey, you can write in different voices. Most of the time it's write like you talk, but a lot of times, sometimes you can do this like overblown poet voice, and that is a technique for doing different kind of writing. He's got an exercise where we take the dice. Here's you roll a 1, you do the overblown voice. You roll a 0, you do the natural voice. You do the 3, you do the sort of the sort of stereotyped these there them kind of guy voice. And so on, and it's kind of fun to actually mix those together, and instead of just being a one thing, you can actually use all these different things as a tool to express different kinds of things and different kind of writing. Repetition is another thing, sort of a repetition, kind of a Martin Luther King kind of voice, as well as one of the other ones that he uses. So
You're right. Yeah, you're trying to use the tool to do the job you're trying to do.
Right.
Whatever is the tool to do what you're trying to do, that's the tool you want to use. Rich, you were fixing to say something?
I put it in the chat. It's my thanks to you again. I have to go, so I kind of didn't want to interrupt, and I just put my good night to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much again for a great feature, Charles. Good to hear you. And
Thanks for
that
stopping
goes
by,
for
Rich.
everybody. Tonight was a real banger, and I'm really glad that I came tonight. Tonight is one for the books. So
Rich, thank you. So live long and prosper.
yes, sir. I can do it.
Could I ask one more? My last question. So my publisher, Diane Pierce, says half of the promotion has to be about yourself, not about your work. So I'm going to ask you a personal question. Do you wear boxers or briefs or commando? So you need to reveal something personal about yourself to engage the book buyer.
Well, the first time after the troubles, after the lockdown, and I did my first live reading, I was in Central Square. They've got this outdoor theater in Central Square, really nice venue, and I was doing a reading there, and I got up in front of the folks and said that this was my first live reading since COVID, and in honor of the occasion, I decided to wear pants. and a lot of we all went to a gazillion Zoom meetings back in the day where, you know, it's like a mullet. What does it say? A mullet is it is party business in the front and party in the back. Well, these Zoom meetings, you'd be there with a sometimes a jacket and tie and in your underwear.
So, Charles, are you saying that you're not wearing pants right now?
I am actually wearing shorts. I was out doing some stuff and I came home and I'm still wearing them. I'll spare you the visual. But yeah, I'm actually
Charles,
legitimate.
I'll share another way to answer that question. I can't confirm and I can't deny.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Let the record show that my response to that question is it you'll have to get back to my people will get back to your people and they'll just
There we are.
no. I'm a traditional guy. I'm a traditional BVD's guy. And I don't know what conclusions one can draw from that, but that does happen to be the fact of the matter. And when I go outside, like sometimes I'm hanging around the house and I'm just in my underwear or some I have these very lightweight um, gym shorts I wear. But when I go out to do something in my car, I need to go on an errand. I put up my shorts. Sometimes if I'm going to take the trash containers back or out, you know, I'm just kind of chilling in my shorts. Right now, what's interesting is I had a little surgery on my foot a month ago, and I'm wearing a boot, one of those walking boots, and so I'm stomping around in that guy, and that's a whole procedure that I have to deal with when I'm, you know, dealing with the world. But I like to keep it casual. I'm going up to teach at an MFA workshop next week, and I'm bringing a bunch of shorts. I'm bringing a bunch of shorts, man. You know, I'll bring some long jeans and I'll bring some long casual pants at one point. But if somebody wants me any more formal than that, then their dogs bark, but the caravan moves on. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. And any other that Robert, that was a very bizarre and interesting question. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I should let folks know that I'm having my official book launch.
Oh yeah, this
for
weekend.
This weekend, Saturday at 2:00 at Friends Meeting House in Cambridge, right on Longfellow Park. So if you know, if anybody is footloose and fancy free and wants to come over and check it out, you would be welcome. You know, obviously I'll have copies of the book there. But yeah, so that's what's going on.
As someone who's always working on projects, I have to wonder, you know, as with every best of an artist, you know, especially in music, an artist will put extras in, you know, an extra track or two in the best ofs. But what I'm curious about as far as poets go, you said you put 20 new poems in. Are those you think exclusive to that collection, or are they a prelude to a bigger book in the future or a new book?
No, I think they're part of this collection. They're 20 new poems for this book, and then when I do my next book, which I'm going to kind of let breathe, I'm not going to rush out with the next book. It'll be a whole set of other new poems, and so the 20 new poems in this guy will be pretty much, you know, they'll be in here. And then, you know, umpty years down the road, when my publisher says, we want to do a book with all your poems in it. Well, these poems will be in that book.
There you go.
I don't see that happening anytime, you know, in the next few years.
But you already have an
Charles,
idea for a new book down the road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Charles,
I'm
my
already-
suggestion for your book cover is on your front to have you and your BVDs,
Oh,
and
yeah.
on the back you would turn around.
Yeah.
It'd be a best seller, and you could get a BVD endorsement.
There you go.
I like that. You know, we're talking about a slightly different market than the conventional market for poetry. But I'm open to suggestions. You know, I think that one should be willing to explore all kinds of possibilities, because you never know. You never know.
Well,
That-
thank you so much for a wonderful reading tonight, Charles. This was excellent, and
You all.
I think it was everything that people hoped for and more. You've definitely got one of the bigger responses when I announced your feature, and I'm glad everything lived up to the hype, to everyone's hype, individual, collective, otherwise. And I will be posting links to your book, and I hope everyone grabs it, and I can't wait to hear the new book manifest, however long that takes, the next time you're with Stone Soup.
Absolutely. Well, can I share a quick poem with you before we
Sure.
split? This is for everybody who is on this call is trying things, is doing new things, is stretching, is exploring, is writing things, is taking chances. And so this is every new thing. Every new thing is an act of treason, a betrayal of the comfortable, the familiar. An animal that's known, only the cage will cringe in the corner if the door suddenly swings open, squealing on ancient, rusted hinges. If I have one wish for me, for you, for us all, it's to remember that our own cages are locked only by the fear of change. That we have the power to shove the doors open, to take one step, then another, into a new world.
And may many more acts of treason come. Let's not let the Republicans have all the fun. Anyway, take back the treason. And thank you so much, Charles. And we will bid you all adieu and a good night. And thanks for all your questions. Thanks for all your input to the audience, and thanks for your listening. And thanks to Charles Coe for being with us throughout the entire night. This is a fantastic feature. You'll get to hear it all over again if you play back the live stream, or if you check out the YouTube video that's going up sometime between 8 and 9 o'clock tomorrow, hopefully. And tune in for more Stone Soup news that's coming as we trudge proudly through the rest of the summer into the new year. Things are looking up for the first time in summer. It's been a hell of a few weeks, and want you guys to write about it, talk about it here, submit to Oddball Magazine if we're always looking for timely work. Thanks to those of you who have submitted such works. They'll be addressed shortly, and thanks to those of you who submitted even just tonight to the Stones Throw anthology. And we'll hopefully see as many of you as possible in the coming weeks, and maybe not all at once. Maybe I'll see some of you all the time, all of you some of the time, but come back if you can. And let's keep Stone Soup going however we can. And the obligatory wave is now, as we give a nice photo for the Facebook post tomorrow. Thanks again to Charles, and thanks to everyone for being here. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Peace. Good night.
The show's over. See you next time.
Bye. Good night.